Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Tyranny, a weekly show about authoritarianism, government overreach, and global injustice. My name is Conrad Rogas. I will be your host. This is episode 4. It is currently just past 11 p.m. here, Central Time, here in Chicago, Illinois, where we will talk about what's going on in the world. And I would like to remind you that if tyranny is not at your doorstep, that's because there's someone in the street keeping it at bay. And I will begin with some local news, local to me, in the state of Illinois, near Chicago, where starting tomorrow, really an hour from now, the no cash bail policy is set to take effect, where there will be no more cash bail for people who are arrested. They will no longer have your regular bond hearing where standard you would pay your cash bail and be on your way until you can appear or not appear in court. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it's going to change overnight because that's not how things happen, but technically this is supposed to go into effect and we'll see if they implement it. Hopefully I won't be seeing for myself if they implement it or not. But I wanted to talk about this because it's come to my attention that it's actually going to happen. And me, who gets prepared for this show, I'm trying to look at the news, see what's going on. I usually can pick up pretty quick what the narrative is, what's going to be happening. But I'm looking at this and thinking, it doesn't really make sense to me. Why would the system, the government, not want the cash bail? Because this is a huge source of income, of revenue for them. And there are a couple things that I think are important to note that have to do with tyranny. And we all know that the penal system, the criminal justice system in this country is tyrannical. But why would they do this? They're sacrificing money by no longer having cash bail, that you pay your bail and get out. Well, they're sacrificing money to make more money on the back end. And what's going to happen now is you're going to have conditional agreements. And long story short, you're going to have more ankle bracelets or electronic monitoring, which is really cheaper for them. And I read about this, that it's actually cheaper for them to let the people out with the ankle bracelet than it is for them to keep them in jail until their court date. And then, of course, it costs money to keep somebody in jail. So this will be cheaper. And also what it's going to make, how it's going to make more money are the seizures and taking away of cash for sure, and whatever else these people have when they arrest them again. Because the way this will be applied is it's going to serve a different purpose for low-level criminals and high-level criminals. So you've got your criminals that are going to just basically, like here a lot in the city of Chicago, a lot of people that are going to get caught with drugs on them, illegal guns, gang-related stuff. They're going to get let out and probably commit the same offenses, and then when they are arrested again, the state will make more money than they would have if they had kept them inside, because the system of prison and jail, it's just a corporate system, it's about making money. But for higher level criminals now, and this is the main thing, this is the real tyranny in this, is that they're going to use this no cash bail system to hold political prisoners. Because now when they have this hearing, it's not a bond hearing anymore. They're going to have the prosecutor speaking with the judge, and they're going to present a case of why, well, they should have pretrial detention and they shouldn't let you out. Since there is no cash bail, there's no reason to, they won't have such an interest in letting you out quickly. So the prosecutor can make a case, well, this person is dangerous to the community, he has a pattern of committing the same crime, and therefore they should hold them until their trial in jail. And that person is no longer free now. They're not just going to pay their cash money and everybody goes home happy. What's going to happen is you're going to have people that have no business being arrested. Like, for example, if they arrested me right now for making content like this, and as tyranny ramps up, the content of a show like this is going to get a lot more serious, a lot more aggressive. It's going to get, a lot more intense. So say they come and arrest somebody like me who shouldn't who has no reason to be arrested. They're going to make the case now. They're going to state a whole lot of things. You know the things they're going to say now. For the people that aren't new to the knowledge, you know what I'm talking about. They're going to throw all the buzzwords at a person like that. And as the narratives change and evolve, a person like this is no longer going to see the light of day. So now you're going to have something very similar to actual hard communism, socialism, like the generation of my parents and grandparents experience in the country that they're from, in Europe under Soviet communism. So it's coming. It's already here, coming to the United States. And no doubt about it, the no cash bail system, it is going to create tyranny. Next, we have the Senate Secure 2.0 becomes the law. And this is basically, this was some fine print as part of the $1.7 trillion bill that passed recently. That was last week's episode. But there's now a provision, a bill that just became law, that requires employers to automatically enroll employees in a 401k. And this is all because the government cares about you. And oh my goodness, it's so terrible that no one has enough money when they retire. They showed all the statistics. And now this allegedly is supposed to make them put more money towards a retirement plan so that they could be taken care of when they're older. Now what this does in reality is just takes away more money. This is just another tax. And the government knows, and I've talked about this, how much of a scam retirement is, and I'll talk more about it, is that that's money that most people are never going to see. And the statistic is right now that about half of the population never sees any retirement money. They never see that money anyway. So this is just more taxation under the guise of looking out for your finances. This is not reality. There's talk about tax credits, emergency savings funds, and this is not reality. And I have a presentation coming called Babyface Criminality, and this is going to be on the Truth and Law website and channel. People are so naive, they don't realize that they're really getting scammed. They haven't seen street level scammers, fraudsters and scammers like you will in the city of Chicago. You don't have to go too far. And people are not streetwise. So being streetwise, the streetwise spirituality, and I will do my presentation, which is an addendum to that presentation named Babyface Criminality, but that is coming up soon. And people fall for the buttoned up professionalism because it's a guy in the tie talking about retirement. They're talking about tax credits. And people who haven't seen the street level scamming and don't have the knowledge to supplement that instinct, they just don't know, and they fall for it. But more tyranny on different fronts. There's all this war talk with China, right? One of the things that happened is the Biden administration has just approved a potential, $180 million sale of this anti-tank system to Taiwan. Taiwan, who has a tension with China. It's very similar tension to the Ukraine and Russia. A very similar situation. And by approving this weapons sale, that gets the antennas of the Chinese up, of course. And this is all fueling war. This is like a lot of Cold War talk. Just like with Russia, the new big red threat is China. And this latest approval, the news of it, comes after Biden signed into a law a sweeping new defense bill that included the establishment of a defense modernization program for Taiwan to deter Chinese aggression. And we all know how that's going to go with deterring Chinese aggression. It's going to be the same as with deterring Vladimir Putin and his Russian aggression. You've got a war now, which is going to create a lot more taxes now for the war, of course. And I talked about it last week. All this war talk is just going to take more money out of the pockets of Americans and people all over the world. For wars, this is how America is actually involved in all of these wars without having troops on the ground. A country like the Ukraine and Taiwan, they're just a satellite to poke at another superpower. And I almost feel, shouldn't say the word poke, because we're talking about people that are actually dying in these conflicts, of course. But you and I care about people dying. The government does not. So all this war talk, it's just money talk to them. And then another story a few days ago was of the Chinese fighter jet coming within 10 to 20 feet of American planes. And they have the picture there, you could see it for yourself. Maybe you have seen it. First they said 10 feet, 20 feet. It doesn't matter how many feet it is. It could be a football field. But the point is, more stoking fear, war with China, aggression, that they said that the American plane had to perform evasive maneuvers to get out of the way. And more talk about war. And I'll talk more about it. I'm sure I will be talking more about it. But since this is the last This Week in Tyranny of 2022, I wanted to do a little summary, and let's just call it This Year in Tyranny. I'll talk about the general narrative, what's been going on this year in tyranny, what's going on, where is tyranny at, and I'll also send a message to the viewers. So one thing that I want to highlight is New York and California and states are going to start to ban the sale of gas-powered cars. New York and California have done that already. The plan is by 2035, no more gas-powered cars to transition to electric, under the guise of climate change and reducing carbon emissions. But why is this tyranny? It's not about debating the scientific merit of climate change. It's not about that. It's about what is this effectively doing? Well, in a survival scenario or any kind of public unrest scenario or even a lockdown scenario, this is basically taking away your access to a vehicle, taking away your freedom to travel, because in a situation like that, if you don't have a gas-powered vehicle with a combustion engine, then you don't have a car, because you can stock up on gas. You can't stock up on electricity. You have to charge it at a charging station, which are limited. Then you have the speed. It takes more time to charge the car. And this is just restricting your freedom. And if you're out in the country, like here in Chicago, of course, you're fine if you have an electric vehicle. But when things hit the fan in this country, now your freedom of travel is restricted to the cities, where of course there's going to be a heavy police presence, heavy military presence. If you're educated in what tyranny looks like it was in Europe under the Soviet Union, you already know what's going to happen. Martial law, it's pretty simple to do, and we've had a preview of it with the lockdowns. And since I'm on the topic, the main big topic of this year in tyranny, how tyranny has permeated in all of our lives this year, it's war and prices, the economy, inflation. Food prices are the highest they have been since they've been keeping track of the food index since 1990. The food prices are the highest they've ever been. But let's summarize, how did this happen? What happened? So this year, 2022, lifting of the COVID restrictions. Everything is now free to return to normalcy, supposedly. So then you have economic rebound, which is going to outpace energy supply. That's what happened, right? There's more demand than there is supply. Plus, you have the war in Ukraine now, which, because of the oil production over there, is going to reduce that supply even further. So what you have is, you've got your supply chain disruptions, you've got your food price crisis, the food prices rising because of the gas prices as well, the oil prices, and the energy crisis because of the energy production also. And what you have is a whole bunch of stress. And this is the name of the game. The theme of tyranny in 2022 has been stress. COVID and then war. And the last 3 years were planned. And what I mean by planned is the government's responses to COVID, they were coordinated. All the governments of the world, they had very similar responses. Coordinated response to this crisis. Then the actions that precipitated the global inflation surge, meaning monetary policy, all this stuff. Those actions of what's going to happen with the economy, those actions were coordinated. And then the actions that precipitated the Russian invasion of Ukraine, those actions were coordinated, right? They knew that was going to happen. Vladimir Putin didn't wake up overnight and decide to do this. The ruling classes, the dark occultists, they have an interconnected web of foreign policy, all of this macroeconomics. So they knew this was going to happen, but all for stress. Why? Why the stress? Well, stress, what does it do? Research is coming out specifically now showing that stress is going to reactivate your human endogenous retroviruses. These are HERVs, right? And of course, stress does a lot of other things. We know about it. But this specifically, activating these dormant viruses, human endogenous retroviruses, what are those? They're dormant genetic sequences that have become part of our genetic code, right? And they're basically inactive, they're dormant. And when activated, you're going to display symptoms of viral infection like COVID and different kinds of, normal diseases. And at the same time, also, they're going to make you have symptoms of, they're going to neurodegenerative disease like multiple sclerosis. And there's research about this. I should attach some of the papers that I was reading about it. Neurodegenerative disease, and also symptoms like memory loss, like the post-COVID so-called brain fog. Some people still haven't recovered the sense of smell. These are all things that happen when these HERVs that are dormant are reactivated. And research is coming out that stress specifically is a big factor in making these dormant viruses active again. And other things that stress does. Stress is going to reduce your long-term endurance. It's going to reduce your willpower, your ability to delay gratification, right? To think ahead. Reduce your ability to engage in critical thinking and long-term pattern recognition, yeah? And all of these things that I mentioned, along with, obviously your health, it's reducing your ability to behave freely and live in a moral capacity. And what I'm getting to is tyranny's weapon in 2022. It was also 2019, 2020, 2021, and now 2022. And in 38 minutes from now in 2023, it'll be more of the same. It's going to be fear and stress. This is the new weapon of choice of tyrants, is fear and stress. Really nothing new, but especially now. It doesn't have to be physical chains anymore. Fear and stress is the new rod, the new chain, the new whipping tool of the tyrants. And I would just like to point out, make sure that everybody knows that the host of this show is not afraid and is not stressed. Like, I get stressed about my work, making sure I have a job, my cars break down, stuff like that. That's what stresses me out, and I address those things pretty quickly, And but the reason I say that is because 2022 was the year that I began speaking publicly. Before this is not, I had no interest in doing this. And the main reason is because of the stress that came as a result of the pandemic, and really the government responses to the pandemic. What was going on in the world made me do a show like this and made me speak out. And since 2020, I've gotten sober. I used to have a lot of problems like that. I've gotten sober. I've changed my life. My relationships with family have completely changed. And this is the year that I've become involved in the great work of ending slavery. And what I'm getting at is, this video is going to get about like 100 views, right? And say 15 to 20 of those are going to be from people who are already engaged in that work, right? They're actively speaking truth. But for the remaining 80 people, I want to ask, why haven't you started speaking out? And why aren't you as upset as I am, Why doesn't it make you feel some type of way? And when you see a video like this, why do you not send it to everyone you know? Why aren't the alarms going off? Since I started speaking out, I've experienced happiness in my life and fulfillment to a level that I did not think was possible. And just trust me, if you do the right thing and speak up and stand up, that is the way to experience fulfillment. And for true love, you need true will. That's what I wanted to get across. So, but for the tyrants, the criminals, the dark occultists that try to create more and more stress, I am not stressed about criticism or jail or death. I was born for this. So I'm happy where I'm at. Bring it on. I will not be frightened. I will not be brought to my knees at all. No way. I don't want salvation. I want the cross. I welcome the sacrifice. Now, I know that's an extreme to fear and stress. That's the other side of fear and stress. And I'm not saying anybody else has to go that far as I am, but at the same time, do not willingly go along with the agenda by being afraid and being stressed. You don't need to. The more stress that these people bring to the innocent people and children, I'm bringing all that stress to them. To the dark occultists, the tyrants, I'm bringing a whole lot of stress to you. And if anybody attempts to stop me defending children and innocent people, that's going to be a whole lot of stress. That's going to result in a whole lot of stress. So if that's the way it's going to go, that's the way it's going to go. And that'll be the day that I come face to face with tyranny for real. And I will welcome that day. And we will see. We will see who's ready for that. Just give me a moment. Make sure I didn't miss anything. This the last broadcast of the year. I'll be back next week. That's about it. I think that's a fine thing to end on. Thank you for watching this episode, and I hope everyone has a happy new year. And by happy, I mean free.